Welcome back to another episode of Questions and Answers. My name's Scott Wilkinson. I'm a professional body piercer and I've been doing this since like 1994. So I've been at this a while. And basically what we do here is we just ask questions, sometimes tell some stories. But if you're asking a question, make sure you're nice and thorough. And over on the other side here, we have Jared. So say hi to Jared.
Hello, everybody. We're glad that you're here. And we are going to, we're in a new set here. Scott, tell us about our new set.
Yeah, I got a new place and we decided we have a dedicated room because before when we were doing this, we had to set this up every week. And it's like an hour before of getting all these things lined up and worked out. It was a lot of work. And now with the new set and things being able to set up longer, we're hoping we're going to be able to do longer episodes with you guys because there's just less setup and tear down. So I'd rather spend that time with you guys.
All right. Yeah. We have some folks here. Well, we'll start off with a question because Brandon was here first.
Right on.
So Brandon shall get an answer. Brandon Morningstar says, and this is a fun question. Yeah. When it comes to counting your active piercings accrued, do you count an industrial as 1 or 2?
Oh,
does it count? I mean, you got
we're going real crazy technical here. I don't really even know. I mean, it's called an industrial piercing, but realistically, it's 2 separate piercings, but it's healed with the 1 bar. So
do you count jewelry or do you count the number of holes that have been poked? Is it an orbital 1 or 2?
Okay, let's back up for a second here. You can ask, if you ask me, hey, Scott, how many piercings do you have? I will say 0. It's kind of the smart aleck answer, but the reason I say that is I look at piercings as the experience, the puncturing of the skin, the piercing itself happens then, and all I have left is artifacts from the piercing.
Yeah, you're getting technical there.
I'm getting kind of crazy.
Well,
but anyways,
win a bet that way.
Well, when you come in to get an industrial piercing in my shop, we charge you for 2 piercings, so I consider 2 piercings.
Oh, so an industrial does cost for 2 piercings.
Yeah, you get your first piercing and then the second piercing fee, which is normally discounted quite a bit, but we count it as 2 separate piercings. If you're getting a triple industrial, you get that additional fee for each hole put into the body.
So I think if you're paying twice and that's 2 piercings, I think that counts.
Yeah, I would say 2 piercings.
All right. M. Crawford says, hi, besties.
Hello.
Helen says hello. Captain Mariah, I love you. I think she was talking to me.
Love you too.
Not you. No.
Is this the garage? No, we're not in the garage.
No, not yet.
No, we're not going.
It'll feel less like a garage. We'll get some stuff behind us. It'll be good.
We just got the stuff hauled to the room. We set it up today. An hour ago. So we will get stuff on the walls and it will have a much more comfortable, fun vibe. And if you guys have any suggestions what we should decorate with, I mean, I was thinking about maybe some plaques, maybe some pictures of famous piercing people, jewelry artifacts like old septum rings and stuff.
I think some of the cool pictures you have of like your past, the fun things that you've done. You have
that might be
your
kind
shop.
of fun. Yeah. Cool too. So if you guys got ideas, let us know.
Ed75 says, good evening. We have an from Doodles McElroy.
Oh, I hope you're okay.
Allison May can't get their Helix to heal.
Okay.
What are our thoughts?
Okay, it's not a lot of information to go by.
Kind of general.
But a lot of times people are sleeping on it. That's probably one of the number 1 reasons why it won't heal. Could be aftercare. Hopefully you're only using a wound wash spray or sterile saline to kind of rinse off those crusties. Sometimes we overclean things and we keep adding to and we're causing more problems. So less is generally more. Maybe it could be the jewelry. If you have not high quality jewelry, there's a scratch, a ding. If the jewelry's too long or too short, these could be causing problems. If you ever wear a helmet, like if you ride a motorcycle and you got to wear a helmet, or like if you have a headset for work or something pressed up against it, all these things are factors. So you got to look at your everyday and figure out, when does it hurt? Does it more sore when you wake up in the morning? And that could be it. So, I hope that helps. Sometimes they do take well over a year to heal. And if you find you're sleeping on it, get a donut pillow. That was a lot of information, but there you go. I hope that helps.
Through it all. I mean, when you don't know the answer, we don't know the question, you got to answer several questions.
There's going to be so many issues. So
awesome. Mad Samick says, I am so happy to see you, man. Emma Bond says, can I get? And I'm really looking forward to the rest of the question.
That'll be kind of fun to hear what that is.
Yeah. Laura says, hi, Scott and Jared. I'm getting a recurring pustule next to my nostril piercing. I know it isn't an irritation bump, as I've had those. How can I prevent it in the future or deal with it when it happens?
Okay. So I've seen this quite a bit. A lot of times it looks like it's a little blood blister coming out of the side of the piercing. And I guess my belief here is that like a piece of hair, like a little piece of dirt, something got inside there that's irritating, and your body's creating like this little cyst and slowly pushing it out. In my experience, I've seen those come out 3 to 4 times before they completely stop. And I'm guessing maybe it pops before it comes all the way out and has to reform again. But generally, when it looks like a blood blister on the side of the piercing, you'll see it about 3 times before it stops.
So you mean like it comes up and then goes away on its own and then
Correct.
will reappear?
And it's like, oh, it's gone. Cool, it's better. And then it pops back up like, oh, it's back. And then it gets bigger and then it pops again. Like, okay, maybe it's gone. And like I said, you see it about 3 times. It takes
now you're saying
months.
It pops. Like, should people mess with it? Should people give it the pimple
Try
treatment?
not to pop it, because that's going to cause more irritation. That will cause an irritation bump. You're right. There is a difference between the irritation bump and when it's almost like that cyst basically trying to come out. So if you pop it too soon, I'm guessing it's not coming all the way out and you might have to reform it and kind of come back out. And I think that's what happens. So in my experience, some hot water soaks where you dip your nose or your piercing in that cup of warm water to help kind of draw stuff out. And that can kind of help it out, but also make sure you kind of dry it off and get those crusties off there when you're done. But that's what I believe it is. It's not a big deal. Expect it 3 or 4 times. You said it's happened a couple times already, so you're pretty much towards the end of it.
So similar to the piercing bump, just kind of treat it nice.
Absolutely.
Be gentle with it and let it go away.
There's different types of bumps, but I mean, most commonly people are going to be getting just the regular piercing bump, where it's an irritation bump caused by irritation. But in this situation, I think something got in there and your body's working, doing its job to expel it out.
Similar like it would do with like a splinter.
Mm-hmm.
Shy B says, hey. Emily Perez says, yo, I'm going in for my bridge in 1 hour. Woo-hoo! Any last minute tips or advice?
No, not really. I mean, just trust your piercer and congratulations. Keep in mind, there's one thing I like to tell all my clients when they get this pierced is that tomorrow or the next day, it might look pretty crooked because you don't swell symmetrically, but it goes back to normal. So remember how it looks in the mirror today. Make sure it's nice and straight. And that's how it generally heals up. So, right. So many panic calls like, my piercing's so crooked. I'm like, it wasn't yesterday. So wait it out. And then we generally don't hear back until they downsize.
Very fun.
But it's an easy piercing, nothing to worry about.
Michaela Everett says, I wish I could be pierced by you, but I am on the other side of the country. Cry.
The cool thing about where I live in Las Vegas is one of the cheapest places to fly. And Vegas is just an epic trip in itself. I mean, you can always, if you ever plan a trip, or sometimes if you have a business trip out here, a lot of conventions are out here. So there's a lot of things that eventually lead people to Vegas. So you never know.
And you are right. If you look it up on like those travel sites, you can get round trips from other places to here and back.
Yeah.
Super cheap.
The casinos really want you to come here.
Yeah. It's like they want you to visit.
Yeah.
All right. Up next, we have a question from, and the rest of Michael Everett's question is that there's no reputable piercers near them. Because I know that's a common theme is for a lot of these advanced piercings, you do say, find a good piercer.
Yeah.
Make sure.
Keep looking, because I mean, there's always a lot of shops. You might have to go to the next city over or something, but I'm sure there's a reputable piercer somewhere around there. You just got to look. And I mean, you could be right, but keep looking. They're out there.
Joshu Martinez says, so I've never been pierced in my lobes before, and I wanted to start a journey of stretching my ears. So I started at a 10 gauge, and that was in September, and now I'm at a 000. Am I going too quick?
Most likely. So if you got pierced at a 10 gauge, I'm guessing, I don't know if you got pierced with a plug or a ring, but once you get pierced at a little slightly larger size, your earlobes stretch much quicker because of the weight and the size of it. So if you got pierced at a 10 gauge, maybe a month and a half, 2 months later, the 8 gauge probably fell into place. The 6 might not have been too much of a stretch, but generally from this point on, you should be doing a minimum month and a half to 2 months between each stretch. If it ever hurt, 100% you're going too fast, because a proper earlobe stretch really shouldn't hurt. It'll be tight, but not painful. So, I mean, I guess it's up to you. I've seen people that stretch naturally really fast, but generally that's pretty quick.
Zach says, smiley face. Hi. And Monica Ewa Peterson says, hi, Scott and Jared and everyone. Hello, Monica. We love seeing you here. Up next, we have a hello from Keith McBride. And Emma Bond says, can I get my lip piercing changed early if it's medically needed for work? So you tell people when they get a piercing to wait a certain amount of time before they change it. But what if you have to change it for
medically needed for work? I'm not sure what medically need, like if the work just requires it, or if you have a medical thing where, because if it's a medical thing, you can't leave the metal in there and it's either retainer or let your piercing closed. But if it's for work, I mean, I think
maybe it's a ring and work doesn't allow a ring, but they will allow a stud. What if it's something like that?
Yeah, I mean, if you need to change your piercing, if it's a matter of losing your piercing or, putting a retainer in there, go with the retainer, because, I mean, there's a chance you can still heal it up, but you're more likely to have a lot more problems. So we generally don't suggest it. But like I said, if it's the option, either the retainer or no piercing, get a glass retainer in there and do your best to keep it clean and keep it healed up. And it's a possibility.
So if someone does change jewelry early, what's the downside? What are we possibly doing that's bad?
Well, the thing is we start with a higher quality piece of metal, so there's no allergens there. Also the correct size. And then also sometimes the glass can be pretty nice because it's nice and smooth, but a lot of acrylic retainers are really porous and they're not safe for new, fresh piercings.
And I mean, not even just retainers. Like, say we are just talking about changing it to different jewelry. Why can't they change early?
Oh, okay. Because you're trying to heal that tube of scar tissue called that fistula. Okay. And as time goes on, it gets thicker and thicker and thicker until you have a well-established tube of scar tissue that protects it from ripping and tearing or causing other germs to go in there. If you change it too soon, you can rip the inner tissues, which will cause the start of the healing process kind of over again because it's an open wound. And then you're creating excessive scar tissue on that new fistula, which causes more likely bumps and things like that on the outside of the piercing. It's kind of a long, vicious thing, but we're trying not to irritate it, and changing jewelry too soon generally irritates it.
Irritates that whole tube in there.
Yes.
Okay. So it's not like the end of the world. If you're going to lose your piercing anyway, but you could be causing trouble. You might have bumps or something after messing with it.
But if you came to me and said a week later, oh, my work won't let me have this, I need to put a plastic retainer in there. I'm like, I'm not putting a plastic retainer in a fresh piercing like that. That's a bad idea, a recipe for disaster. Maybe a glass one, but I get real scared of the glass ones because things can get sucked in so easy because they don't have a good solid head on there the same way, So there's so many factors.
That is so.
Yeah. Good question.
Excellent. Pink Sin says, hello, guys. My doth piercing won't heal up. It's been 6 months now. Will a salt solution help? It's still raw and has a bump, but no infection.
Okay. A lot of people want to go back to the salt solution thing. And if it's mixed exactly properly, it can work pretty well. But the thing is most people don't measure exactly right and don't use the right salt, don't use the right water. So it causes more issues. Now, the wound wash spray we're using is sterile saline mixed in the lab. So it's perfect. And we're not as perfect with our measuring spoon, measuring cups, and that's where we run into problems. Now, if you're using generally 1/4 of a teaspoon exactly of non-iodized fine-grained sea salt to about 8 ounces of warm, distilled, or filtered water, and you mix that properly in a clean glass, then you're able to dip and submerge your piercing, and it generally doesn't cause too many issues. But you mix a little too much salt, you just caused more problems than you're actually
because it's going to dry it out.
Yeah,
because you're putting a salty
or you're mixing up a clean solution, putting it in a dirty glass, and you're putting a bunch of last night's,
germs or whatever
you were drinking out of that glass, beer, whatever it might be.
And in general, so a doth piercing that won't heal. So hit it with some solution.
Earphones, earbuds, things like that, because that will not allow it to heal. Are you sleeping on it? I mean, generally you can sleep in that area and it doesn't cause a doth too many problems. Is your jewelry rotating? You're constantly pulling crusties through? Because if that's the case, I would maybe suggest emu oil, because that helps calm it down when it's really upset and gets rid of the crusties. Yeah, sometimes cartilage piercings just take a long time. The other question I would have is it nice and deep inside the doth, or is it towards the edge and you can see a ridge of where the piercing is? Because if it's pierced too shallow, sometimes it's a real slow rejection and they don't seem like they ever heal too. So it has to be pierced deep enough and pierced properly. So, maybe check with your piercer, see what they say.
So Laura wants to know the best way to stretch a conch. We're currently at 3.2 millimeters, and there is space, but not enough to fit 4 millimeters yet.
Yeah. Conch piercings, I would say go with glass. Gorilla Glass plugs makes half half sizes and in between sizes, and that's going to be the easiest way. Generally, we say month and a half to 2 months between each stretch, but as you know, the conch is fairly thick, and it's going to take a little bit longer for all that tissue to relax. So, I mean, if it's only been a couple months, you need to be a little bit more patient and wait a little bit longer, and then do the half sizes, and maybe do the stretch when you're taking a nice hot shower, because that hot water can kind of loosen things up and allow you to get the jewelry in there a little bit easier. So that's my recommendation. A stretch like this is tough, and sometimes patience is the toughest thing we have to
do. It's tough sometimes to be patient.
But I want it
now.
now.
Exactly.
Like, no, it's going to be a couple more months before you're ready to do this.
And it's poetic justice that if you go too fast, you limit the eventual size you can get to.
Correct.
You create the scar tissue.
Yeah. So patience.
We have a good industry question from Emily Sakuma.
Sure.
How much should you tip for a jewelry install of high-priced pieces? So if we go to someone and they're going to put an expensive piece in me, like, am I expected to tip a certain percentage of that? Or is the tip more based on like the amount of work you did to put it in?
I don't know. Like, it's a really good question. Some people go by the total price of the bill. Some people tip on the percentage of the service fee.
Okay.
It's ultimately what you're comfortable with. I'm always happy with a couple bucks to maybe $5 if you did something like that. But yeah, if you bought like a $600 piece, are you supposed to tip 20% on top of that? You know, it's like,
right.
But it's only like a $5 fee to put it in. And if you bought that $600 thing, I'm probably going to throw it in for free. So it's whatever you're comfortable with. I'm always surprised at anything over a $5 tip for some sort of jewelry thing I put in. But I've had people tip me, maybe it's because they don't know, but it's whatever you're comfortable with.
So some people will give a percentage of the total bill.
I have had it before, and I'm like, wow, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. You did great. I'm like, thank you. You know, we always appreciate it, but I don't think it's ever expected. I can't speak for every piercer out there. Some piercers are definitely more commission based and so forth. Like here in my shop, we're all salary based piercers. We're not pushing stuff. My front counter they're not commission based either. So I don't want gold pushed. If you want it, we'll sell it to you, you know, and a lot of times it sells itself.
Because I've heard of people that'll go the opposite way, and they'll go so far as to be like, well, if you don't buy the gold, you're being cheap, like make fun of you in front of your girlfriend. Like about not buying the gold, you know? So like that's the way that some people play.
There's different sales tactics. So I can't speak for everyone, but I can say at my shop, I never expect more than a couple dollars for just a simple jewelry change.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's good. You know, it's the same kind of thing. You know what I mean? Is it a percentage? Like we're supposed to go 15? It's a good question.
Yeah, it's a tough question, but ultimately it's what you feel comfortable with, you know?
And you never
always appreciated.
And you don't look at them like they're cheap if they didn't get 15% of the whole cost of the jewelry or something.
You know what? Like the ones, it sounds really weird. And people might hate me saying this as piercers, but it's like sometimes I've had people give me like $1 bill and be like, I'm so sorry, but this is all I have, but I really appreciate. And it's like, it was almost embarrassing to give just the $1, but I could see the appreciation that they couldn't do. You know, nothing would be 100 times worse than that. So I truly knew they appreciated my service and what I did. And that means a lot more to me. Absolutely. Sometimes gifts are really fun too. You know, it's just like you went out of your way to do it. Like, wow, you know, people can be amazing. Yeah.
Very fun.
Yeah.
Very fun. Katie Rondell says, hi guys, I just started stretching my lobes and I'm so excited about it. I love what you're doing here.
Thank you. We're really happy to have you here, and congratulations on your new journey. Remember, patience is the key. And it's so fun getting new jewelry and plugs. You always have to get new plugs, and there's so many styles, wood and glass, and have fun.
Ursula's Odds and Sods has a question. We're talking about mantis placement.
Sure.
We're confused about where they should be exactly. We thought that they had to be forward facing. To be a mantis, but we've heard a lot of people calling piercings all the way forward, but still on the side, mantis piercings. Is that more of like a faux mantis that's done when the anatomy won't allow a traditional? What do you think?
I'm going to say it all depends on the person's nose. Everyone has a different shaped nose. I've had sometimes where they kind of point down a little bit more. I've had them kind of point up. I've had it come straight out. Some people have a pointy nose and they kind of have to point. And, you know, you work with the anatomy you have and you're trying to pierce as perpendicular to the tissue as possible, making 2 90-degree angles. You don't want to pierce at weird angles because that's what causes bumps and things to not heal properly. And it's a lot more tissue to heal. So it depends on the anatomy and the shape of your nose. And we're going to make what's most appealing and pleasing to look at. Is, that's what a good piercer would do. So it's not like, oh, it has to be this spot, even though it's a really awkward angle and everything. Well, no, do what looks right, and more forward facing in general is what the mantis piercing is, but it's not a specific spot.
Okay.
Great question.
Anatomy based.
Yeah.
Ed 75 question: when it comes to cleaning a nostril piercing, do I need to push the stud forward and clean under it, or just clean around it? Thank you.
Okay, great question. A lot of people think you need to get the cleaning solution on the inside, or if they push it like this, they're going to be able to kind of free it up so they're able to clean it better. Now, the key is you spray both sides, let the solution soften up the crusties to where you can wipe them away first. Because if you push and you're breaking the crusties away on the outside, or you're pushing crusties in on the inside, you're causing more problems.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So you need to remove most crusties first before you start moving things around. But it's not necessary to get the solution on the inside, because the goal is to keep the crusties off there. Your body is what does the healing. That solution doesn't. We're just trying to prevent problems by getting rid of the crusties, which are the source of irritation.
So if Ed looks under the stud and there is little crusty, some junk under there, we do want to get that out.
Yeah, but you don't really need to really push it up too much. If you take a paper towel or a piece of gauze, you can roll it up into a tight point and use it like you would use a Q-tip. That way it's not going to leave the cotton residue, and you can get in there and you can almost scrape it without really pulling or pushing it back and forth. Yeah.
Excellent. Good question, Ed. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
It still amazes me. We still get new questions. We've done this how many episodes? What are we on?
48, I think.
48 episodes, and we still get questions we haven't been asked before. I thought we were just going to have the same questions every day, but it's new all the time. You guys are amazing.
A ton of people, and they all have.
Hey, if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. Hit the like button. It really makes a big deal, though.
Linnaeus saying, hiya, massaging my lobes watching this.
Oh.
Mad Semic says, I trust every word you say about piercings. I had my septum that is healed well, but I just got a new nostril piercing on the right side on Saturday. All I use is saline solution. Is that all I need?
Honestly, that is all you really need, other than being careful of towels, drying off from shower bath, because they love grabbing a hold of it and yanking on it. But you said it's the other side, so you already have one side.
We have a septum, and we just added a nostril.
Okay. Yeah, just watch out for towels and shirts so they don't get caught on there. That's the other thing. Otherwise, just the saline, spray the inside and outside, and get those crusties off there, and they heal nice and quick.
Leah wants to know, what are your thoughts on the snake bites, angel fangs combo?
Snake bites, angel.
So didn't they have a name for that? Didn't they
cool.
call them cyber bites or something?
Cyber bites is the
the vertical. What's the one that's all
okay?
four?
So angel fangs is here and here, so you're gonna have a slight angle coming down, and then if we did the
bites on the that is different because
kind of an
fangs.
angle. You could either angle them out, so you can kind of have an angle going that way. I haven't seen it too much, but I really like it.
Cool idea and pretty neat.
Yeah.
Good thought, Leah.
Yeah.
Send us a picture if you do it. CTS Diva says, hey guys, I got a double flat about 4.5 months ago.
Sweet.
Is it time to get 2 more yet?
It's always time to get more piercings. It depends on this area. If are you talking about the same area? Because you want to wait till the swelling's gone down and it's healed up enough to where you're not going to pierce it at weird angles. That's my big thing. So you should be okay to get some more piercings at this point, as long as you're not healing too much up. Just
Haley Valdez has had a conch for a little over a year, but we still have an irritation bump and it's still pretty tender. The original CBR hoop I have in is huge. Should I change it out?
100%. That is the source of the problem. I won't even pierce conches with rings because they cause all that irritation bump. And it almost doubles the healing process because if it's twisting, it's just contorting and bumps happen. So put in a barbell. Don't change to a smaller hoop. Just put the stud in there. Wait till those bumps completely dissipate or try to go down as much as possible. Sometimes if you leave it in too long, those scars are really, really hard to get rid of. So put a real nice snug barbell in there, and that should help quite a bit.
Now, once that gets better with the barbell, can we go back to the ring eventually? Could we eventually have another CBR in there?
Most likely, if you get the swelling down and you get it to heal up a little bit better. Sometimes if it's really swollen and you've had the ring in that time, you have a lot of curve going through your cartilage. A straight barbell could irritate it. So, if it's your piercer would know this, but talk to them, see if you need a curved barbell or a straight barbell, because it kind of depends on what is established in your ear there. Yeah.
All right. Coming up next, we have a question from Keith McBride. As of right now, I don't have a regular piercer that I trust, but I want to get an industrial done. Is there any way to figure out if my ear is the right shape before I go get it done? If only there was some way to demonstrate, Scott.
I don't know. My ears just, you can't see. Wait a minute.
That was pretty good because it was out of frame.
Yeah. Okay. So you can tell a little bit. The things you're looking for are two main areas. One is like on the side here. You see how this really doesn't have much of a ridge and it's just flat. You see how there's a ridge up here. You need two solid ridges so you can pierce perpendicular. Otherwise, it's going to cause a lot of bumps right in this area. Now, the other big thing I'm going to show you on another ear, like this one. When you look at this here, there's this raised part in the middle, like this anti-helix area. Sometimes it's out further this way, but if you try to put a bar and it's pressing directly into there, if you look up pictures in industrials where they're digging in, you'll see how your ear can almost eat the bar and it's going to get really raw, leave huge scars, and then you're not a good candidate for this piercing.
So that one you're showing us does have the ridges.
It does have.
Show us the ridges.
It has the ridges here. You see how there's a natural ridge there? It kind of has this lip and a lip here. So you could do the piercing, but this right here is going to be in the way. Now, this ear, we have three of the ears here, is a better candidate. You can see how I tip it flat, how it looks like it stands out, but it's pretty far in there. And then the bar will rest in front of that. And that has two perfect ridges. So this is the best candidate for the piercing. Now, to get a little bit more technical, if you have an ear like this, doesn't mean you can't get industrial, but you're going to have a custom bent where the bar goes across and then maybe angles back so it's going perpendicular to the tissue.
Like a hockey stick.
But there again, you're going to have a little bit more experienced piercer yet to understand the angles and how to do that properly. So that's how you'd want to check to see if you have the right anatomy.
So that is pretty helpful.
Yes.
If Keith looks in the mirror or takes a cell phone picture of his ear and looks at it, you can see if you have the ridges or if you're anti-helix sticks. Those are the two main things, is
Pretty
having
much.
the ridge on the edges and making sure the middle doesn't poke
That's
out.
a majority of it. And sometimes people have piercings in that area where it's like you can't pierce around another piercing. It's got to be free of piercings too. That'd be the only other factor, but it should be fine. A lot of people they want the industrial so bad they'll take the other piercings out to have the industrial.
Okay, just trade up.
Yep.
Interesting. Will Jones says, I've had my lobes at 0 gauge for a bit under a month now, and I took them out for a full new look. How long do you think it'll take before they fully close? Will they fully close from a 0 gauge?
If you stretched nice and slow and it never really hurt, there was never any ripping and tearing, they should mostly close. You're probably always going to have an earlobe piercing because I don't know if it'll close, but it should shrink up close to what normal was. Now, if you overstretched it, it's not going to close very fast because there's more scar tissue, and that scar tissue needs to go away before
it bunches up.
If you took it out and you started massaging it every day, a couple months and you're going to see some pretty major progress, and then it might take up to a year or two afterwards for things to kind of make that final jump to really kind of. I've seen amazing progress real fast, and I've also seen it take years. So generally it closes quick, and then the last part is just like a real slow race to kind of completely close.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it look weird during that whole time?
Not too much.
Okay.
Not too much. And I will say this, a lot of people don't like the look of the hollow, it's like, oh, just put smaller until it shrinks up to there, put in, slightly smaller and then let it shrink. Any weight on there keeps that hole open, and you need to not wear jewelry at all if you want it to close up.
Okay. So
not even like
really
a small little hoop in there. Any weight really slows you down.
Gonna pull it back open.
Nothing if that's the case.
All right. Terry Enby with a video suggestion wants to know if you can possibly do a video on whether nostril piercings are safe with nasal tube feedings. I'm at high risk of needing one again someday, but I want nostril piercings. It's actually an excellent question. I feel like we'd have to probably talk to a nurse or doctor about that.
Yeah, I want to do some definite research.
In a hospital, they almost always make you remove all your piercings before something like that. But if this was something you were going to do recurring, like in a home or outpatient, I wonder if you'd be allowed to maintain a piercing or not. I'm not sure.
I imagine if you had a fully healed piercing and you talked to your doctor or nurse and said, hey, if I had this completely flush with a flat disc on the inside, it's really not going to interfere or hit with anything. And that's probably what it is. A lot of times when doctors see piercings, they're seeing it where people haven't downsized. They have too much bar showing. It's
an obstruction.
It's an obstruction. And for sure, get it out of the way. But if something's not in the way, it shouldn't really matter. A lot of times medical procedures, they're making you take things out because they don't want metal inside your body during like MRIs, operations, x-rays, things like that, because it's going to interfere. But they allow glass or plastic. But in this situation, it's about having the metal one nice and flush where it's out of the way, not going to get pulled inside. You're not going to
absolutely. If we get a chance to sit down with a nurse, which I'm sure we'll do someday.
We'll add this to the list. I can't guarantee it'll come up quick, but we're adding this to the list because that's a great question.
Awesome.
But
thanks, Terry. We appreciate
that's my opinion. Hopefully, we'll have a video to give you a little bit more fact.
Excellent. Nick says, you went live at the best time. Oh, my Lucifer. So I switched my snake bite studs to rings because I finally passed the 4 to 6 week mark, but they're painful. And like each side has a painful bump. The rings are sinking into the bump. Have I made a mistake? I don't know what to do.
Okay. It might have been a little bit too early if they weren't healed up enough, but I will say that when you first put rings in there, the inner tissue of it's lip piercings, right?
Yep.
Yeah. The inner tissue of your lip is really, really soft. And sometimes it just it creates that curve and cuts in a little bit. It's going to feel raw for maybe a week or so, and then it should start feeling better. But if you have bumps starting to pop up as soon as you put those rings in, go back to your studs because you're going to have nothing but bumps for a long time. It wasn't ready if that's what happened.
And the smaller the ring is, the more aggressive the curve. Right?
Correct. You should have at least 2/3 of the ring showing and 1/3 inside. I hope you understand fractions, but that means more than half of the ring should be showing.
Okay. So if you feel like it's half in and half out, then that's not good. That
proper size jewelry is essential for rings to feel comfortable in a lip, especially this early. I probably would have waited a little bit longer if I was you.
And if that's the case, switch back to the studs and wait it out for a minute.
If you're getting the bumps, switch back. If it just feels a little raw and everything seems to be okay, it just kind of seems like it's a little sore on the inside, that's normal.
Stick it out.
But I mean, lips generally heal in 6 to 8 weeks. You said you did around 6 weeks or so.
4 to 6.
4 to 6. Yeah, that's a little on the early side. You could have been healed. I don't know. I don't know your situation.
Agnes Crisera is going to get stacked lobes pierced on Friday. Nice. Very excited.
Congratulations.
Dreams Remorse says, I wish I could wear a headset, but with a forward helix and a helix, I find it impossible to wear over-ear headsets.
I really don't know that much about over-ear headsets if they actually make them in many different size bulb kind of things.
There are some that are way big.
So you might want to just kind of research that and see if you can find oversized ones. That might be a good thing to kind of look into, like the best headsets for a year. Yeah,
that's not a bad idea at all.
Yeah, we're full of episodes today. Yeah. That's a good one.
And actually, I was just over at my brother's, and he does a lot of conference calls.
Yeah,
and he has a pair of headphones that sit right here and are bone conduction.
Oh yeah, we talked about that.
So they just kind of sit, and he can just hear it in his head, but they're not actually touching his ears at all.
There is options that way.
That could be a thing that specifically the piercing world might be interested in. So we could probably do some tests on that kind of stuff. Yeah. Thank you, Dreams Remorse.
It's a bummer. If it's not right, it's not right, and they cause problems. So yeah, maybe just do a little research, and we'll probably eventually have a video on the proper headset ones too.
And forward helix and helix, you probably could still get an earbud of some kind in there, the smaller kind that fits.
Correct.
In your inner ear.
You just need to stay away from the doth piercings and the conch piercings where they're and tragus.
Right. Yeah. So you have the forward helix and the doth. No headphones again forever. Nikolai Vinograd says, hey, it's my favorite live stream again. Love y'all. How's a high nostril piercing done? And is it riskier or more painful than a nostril piercing? I guess it makes sense because it seems like it's kind of an area that your fingers can't reach,
okay.
Obviously.
So I have a special tool that I use that holds on to the jewelry. And basically what I do is I'll put a receiving tube all the way up the nose. It's pretty awkward, I'm not going to lie.
What's a receiving tube? We say it a lot, but people might not know.
It's a glass tube that has a 45-degree cut angle on the end. Receiving tubes some have curves. They're made of glass. They're made out of metal. Some have 90-degree cuts, 45-degree cuts.
And what's the purpose?
To get to different angles depending on the piercing you're doing. Sometimes you reach in and it catches the needle so you don't stab the inner part of your nose.
Okay.
Or whatever, stab yourself. Like septums, I'll put on both sides so I can kind of feel where things are at and allows me to kind of connect the dots.
Pierce into the tube.
Yeah, pierce into the tube. So you've seen the videos where people bam, they slam a septum and it goes through the nostril as well. That doesn't happen with me.
They didn't have a receiving tube.
Yeah. So that's why I do that. But anyways, you have this big glass tube that goes all the way up your nose. I pierce into the tube and then basically follow through with a special taper. The tool's holding onto the jewelry because, these sausages aren't going to fit up your nose. So,
right.
So basically the tool goes up there and then we kind of click that threadless jewelry in there and it's in there pretty good. So I have to use tools to get all the way up there. And I will say slightly more risky. I had mine done one time that was a little bit closer to my face, and we did end up hitting an artery because I mean it was almost pulsating, shooting out of my nose, and it stopped. It wasn't the end of the world, but I mean that is a little bit more risky than any normal nostril piercing I've ever done.
Because you've never had a regular nostril bleed like that.
And I've never had it happen to any of my customers. It's only happened to me. Of course, I pierced, I think, in a 14 gauge, probably too big. You know,
might have been the problem.
But anyways, it's a little awkward, but it's not the end of the world. Not too risky as long as you pierce the appropriate size.
Pain wise, is it worse than a regular nostril?
I think it's more awkward having all the tools shoved up your nose than the actual pain of the piercing. The piercing's a piercing, might be a little bit more than a nostril, but nostrils generally aren't too bad as far as piercings go. Yeah.
Excellent answer. Linnaeus has question. Is it possible to get an elongated stretched helix as an alternative to a coin slot? I know you can get an elongated shape in a septum with stacking. Can this be done in a helix? So we're talking about stretching with stacked rings causing a non-round hole.
I don't think you could.
No?
You got me thinking here. Like the way you would do it is you'd have to put 2 rings in there, and then you wouldn't keep adding more rings. You would just have to enlarge the size of each ring. So you kind of create, but it's going to be tough to really control the direction of your stretch. So like, for instance, you have a 16 gauge, or if you had a 14 gauge piercing helix, and you put 2 16 gauges, as long as they're very parallel and almost snug around your ear. And then when those relax, maybe you add a 14 to the 6, so a 14 and a 16.
But they're still going to bunch and be approximately round, I think. I think your septum becomes oblong because it has to.
It's the soft mucous membrane, you're stretching cartilage. But at the same time, I think it is kind of possible, but not to go as huge.
Right, because some coin slots end up like big oblong holes too.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like you do a ring and then stretch this one ring, then stretch this one ring, then stretch this one ring. And the rings are just going to keep getting bigger, creating a more oval, long shape. It's not going to be the same as a septum, but you could do it theoretically a little bit.
Very good question, Linnaeus. That's a fun, interesting thing.
But I think if you added multiple rings, then it starts going into the round shape.
Myron J says, hey guys, how many piercings can you get on your ears at one time? Or is that something that depends on the shop?
I think a lot of it depends on the shop, but you got to keep in mind your body can only heal so much because each time you get a piercing, your immune system's kind of being split up between all the different types of wounds. So personally, I don't like to have more than like 4 to 6 piercings healing at once. It's kind of a weird window because I would say maybe 6 piercings if you're dealing with earlobes because they generally heal within a month to 2 months. And if you just make it a little bit longer, it's not the end of the world. But if you're dealing with helix piercings or cartilage piercings that can take up to a full year to heal, once you have like 5 or 6 of those going, it's like you're not sleeping for a long time. And then that year-long healing process might now be a 1.5 or 2 years. So that's why I don't like to have between 4 and 6 piercings healing at once.
And so, and the answer to Myron's second part, it does depend on the shop. Some shops will only do 3. Some shops will probably poke as many holes in you as you want if you've got the wallet for it.
Some piercers are paid purely on commission. And if they're a fairly slow shop and you said, I want to do 10 piercings, that might be the only money they're getting for the day. And they're going to take every penny they possibly can. There's also a lot of responsible piercers who will say, no, I don't want to have more than so many piercings healing, because so it prevents problems from happening. And keep that in mind, piercers. Like if you're the piercer that's like, I'll do 12 in one day, I don't care. You're going to see that customer a lot because they're going to have a lot of problems.
Right. They're going to be back.
They're going to be back. Why do I have these bumps? How do I have this? We need to change this. So this is too long. This is too short. This is like minimize the trauma to the body and allow piercings to heal. Don't overdo it.
Allie May says, I love how good you are about answering all the comments. Thank you, Allie. I try to, we want to answer everyone because there's no such thing as like a bad question. Like to you, that's the problem you have now and you need help.
Correct.
So we want to make sure, even if it's about bumps, like everybody needs to know.
Yeah. Yay, Jared. Thanks, Jared. He really does a good job at this and really kind of stays on track. And he just asks me questions and my mouth just starts going.
I mean, it makes it pretty convenient. M. Crawford says, seeing as you live in Vegas, did you or anyone on your staff go to the We Were Young Fest this past fall? Do you plan on going this coming fall at all?
No. I don't think anyone from my staff did. Maybe No, I don't think they did. I would have heard more about it because, I've talked to a lot of people who come in from all over the country for that concert.
Oh, so I bet you talked to a ton of people.
So a lot of people are like, oh, we're here for We Were Young, and I'm like, who their favorite was and the different stories. So I hear that, and I think they do it a couple nights in a row.
Different band lineup.
So like the first night, then the second day, I hear all the stories, and then they're gonna go see them again normally. So, but no, I did not go.
You're always working. This guy's always poking holes in people.
Work. Yep.
All right.
People made their holes in them.
Shy B says, just got snake bite. So glad to catch a life, but I let my nostril close because it was crooked. But there's a bump inside now.
Yep.
Can I still pierce again to match the other side without any complications from that inside bump?
Yes, you can. But I would suggest, it sounds kind of funny, but try to massage. Get your finger in there and like the outside and try to massage and break down that scar tissue. Generally, I tell people a minimum of a month before you get something re-pierced, just so things can kind of go back to its normal state. And if you have access to like Mederma or scar tissue remover, you will get rid of that bump on the inside, but you don't want to use that when you have the piercing. It's only before you have it to get tissue to normal so it heals the fastest and best.
And that scar reducer, that's pretty common. You can find that just like a
almost
Walmart
any pharmacy
or a drugstore.
Yeah, otherwise I just order it from Amazon and have it there in like an hour or something.
And in some places,
crazy, man.
We live right next to one of those.
I know. I ordered something
centers
the other day and it was within 2 hours. I was like, how is it here? I came back from lunch and it was like, there's no way. And I opened up and it was. So, wow.
Technology. They're figuring it out.
For real.
Astral Gypsy wants to know if you have any tips for stacking a septum.
Patience and just, have the jewelry ready. When you do this, sometimes in the shower or soaking your nose, that hot water kind of loosens tissue up and you can fit it in there. When you do the stacks, don't add giant rings. Don't add a bunch of like a 14 or a 12 gauge each time you want to do it. Work with the little ones because the little ones will kind of fit inside each other and it's easier to kind of add more. Once you start getting like 6 piercings in there, it gets kind of clumpy and that's when you want to start upsizing the rings if you're going to stack. Then you can just kind of upgrade from a 16 or an 18 gauge up to the next size, like 14.
Okay, and have fewer of them again.
I didn't like having more than 5 or 6 rings in there because to me it felt kind of weird. It got too clumped up and I lost control of the look of the rings.
Okay, they didn't sit evenly.
But yeah, that's the best advice I can give. Use little small increments in the jumps, patience, and the hot shower really helps.
Brandon Morningstar wants to know, Scott, have you ever met any other piercing legends like Jim Ward, Elaine Angel, etc.?
Absolutely. I go to APP, the big piercing conference, and have been for years. Back in the day, I took the Fakir intensives. That was in 97 or 98, I think it was, and actually worked alongside with, Fakir.
And Fakir, along with Jim Ward, was one of the originals
Todd
that started
Almighty.
this.
I've also met Elaine Angel several times. I actually interviewed Elaine Angel not too long ago, so you should probably look that up. It was a really fun interview. Yeah,
absolutely.
I've met a lot of those people, and they're all really cool. Most of the legends you're going to meet in this industry are the most humble, fun, cool people you'll ever meet. And there's reasons why they're legends. Some of the people who are so full of themselves and think they know everything don't continue their education. They stay home, they're locked, and they're a legend in their own mind. But, the people who go out there and help educate and really, share that knowledge, and it's amazing. That's why this industry's grown so fast.
And it kind of seems like a tight community. I got a chance to go to APP with you last year and check it out at the area. And it really, you can tell, piercers love other piercers. They were all like happy to talk to each other and get a chance to hang out with
There's no rivalry. It was really, really weird having that much competition, but it's the best of the world. Anyone wants to get better. And when you want to get better, you should have an open mind and accept other ideas and other thoughts. Mm-hmm. And, you don't have to use them all, but the more knowledge you have, the better tools you have to accomplish the best performance you can do as a piercer. So
you listen in, this guy's sharing wisdom with you right now. So yes. And also Brandon Morningstar wants to know if you've ever done or would plan to be on Ryan Poulet's podcast, The Piercing Wizard.
Absolutely. Ryan
Poulet. We spelled it Paulette Poulet. I don't know how to say it.
Ryan's awesome. I talked to him last year quite a bit at APP. Not quite a bit, but like he's so busy. He was on the board of directors. He was doing podcasts there. Ryan, if you're watching, sure, we should totally get together. I'd love to have you on my show, and I'd love to be on that show. I just love talking and doing everything piercings.
Everything Piercings.
Ryan's amazing source of information. If you haven't checked out his podcast,
really technical,
the Piercing
good
Wizard.
info.
Yeah, he's the man.
Oksana Ivanovna says, "Hey Scott, how are you?"
I'm fantastic. How are you doing? Thanks for being on the show. We appreciate everyone being here, and such a big fun family.
Astrid Posey wants to know, what would you say is the time it takes for an industrial to stop hurting when it's knocked or bumped on accident? Like my lobe stopped after just a couple days.
Yeah.
But that is a thing. So like 6 months later, if I bump that industrial, it's going to hurt still?
Maybe. Okay, so we got to go back to the ears here and kind of explain something. Now, if you're piercing, give me a straw here. Wish there's a better. No, that still works.
That's pretty good.
Okay, so if your piercing's done perfectly perpendicular like this, which means when the needle was done is at that angle and then that's at that angle, there's no contorting of the tissue. Now imagine if this was pierced at this angle and then this one was pierced at this angle. When you put the jewelry in, you're twisting all of that tissue and you're forcing it to be in here. Now, if you immediately start getting bumps, it's because it was pierced at the wrong angle and you're having problems and you're not going to be able to heal this. So that being said, it could be a year and a half, 2 years, you just slightly sleep on your ear and it's going to get really, really upset because it was never pierced properly. If it's pierced properly, it could be seemingly healed up in probably like maybe 5 to 6 months. That'd be about the earliest I would see, but maybe even up to a year. So 5 months to about a year is what a properly healed or properly pierced pierced industrial that has been taken care of properly should be fully healed in.
And by fully healed, that's no longer sore.
Yeah, that means you can sleep on it all night and you wake up and there's no tenderness. If something bumps your ear, you don't even know it's there. It just becomes part of you.
All right. Zach says, love you.
I love you too, Zach.
Sophia says, hey, Scott, I am so excited. My right ear is fully healed and I'm in the new jewelry phase. I cannot get my Helix out and replace the jewelry. I tried twisting and pulling and nothing. Any tips? So what kind of jewelry could we have in our Helix?
Okay, so let's see here. The Helix, I don't replace the jewelry.
If twisting didn't work, it's probably pulling.
You might need to see your piercer. Yeah, sometimes there's threadless where you got to kind of separate it. Sometimes we put a bend on that piece that goes in there and it's so tight because we don't want it falling out for you. But sometimes we put it in so tight it's almost difficult to get undone. Now, if it's not unthreading, okay, first of all, if you can get some gloves like nitrile or latex gloves, you get a way better grip. And a lot of times we spend all our energy pinching so it doesn't slip in our hands. But if we have a good grip, sometimes it just comes unthreaded. Number two, if it's the threadless jewelry and you can't get it unthreaded, it's not, or if it's spinning and it's just not coming out, I like to use my thumb knuckles here as pivot points. So I'll hold on the front and then the back and use my knuckles this way and you can get better leverage. So when you're kind of pulling like this, it's all over the place.
It's like the opening a bag of chips thing.
Exactly. So that's how I would do it.
Show them that again. Do that with your fingers again, because that's actually pretty cool.
So if you're holding on and you're kind of pulling like this, your hands are loose and you're not getting good. But if you use your knuckles, the inner part of your knuckles here, and push them together, almost like kind of creating a butterfly here, you can pinch a bead, and you have leverage to pull it apart. See how my elbows go in and
and that's really strong, but controlled and slow.
Correct. And you're not going to go back in and stab yourself or anything like that. But that's the easiest way I found to get most of my jewelry out that's threadless. If you can't get it, maybe just go see your piercer and they'll be able to totally get it for you.
All right. So hopefully that helps you, Sophia. Give that a shot. Yeah. You might be able to just get that out of there. Because, if it's spinning and not coming out, you almost for sure have that other kind.
The other thing, too, is if you have a stone bead on the front or like an opal bead, sometimes it can break free and it just spins in there. And then the opal almost needs to be broken to get it out so you can have access to the threads. I've had just opal beads with like a little titanium pin or screws in. Those can get stripped out. So if that's what you have, that might be the problem, too.
A clarification from Emma Bond. We talked earlier about changing our jewelry early.
Yeah.
We work at Home Depot and we got hit in the face.
Oh.
So it's snake bites and we're getting one on the bridge of the nose. I guess that's kind of unrelated, but so that's the idea, is that we got hit with it. So if it's irritated, that means changing the jewelry is even more likely to kind of irritate things, huh?
No. In a situation like this, you get bumped in the mouth and you're swelling and you need to get something longer in there. If you overswelled, either it's like you have to have a long enough piece of jewelry or sometimes it swells so much where it just, you need to
That's
take it
the
out and
problem.
start it all over. Yeah. So
Okay.
I'm guessing if it's really swollen and it's sore and the jewelry seems too tight, yes, go into your piercer, see what they say. You probably need a longer post if that's the case. That happens to lips. It's like we accommodate for so much room, but you've seen it before where they just get ginormous. If it's the super huge, just take it out because it's too tough to heal.
Up next, we have a question from Ira.
Okay.
Does losing weight affect your back dermals? Also, as a plus size person, are there any risks? So that's a good question. Like, does the thickness of your skin change?
The thickness of your skin probably doesn't change, but where you wear your pants might.
Oh.
Okay. So if you have to get different pants and they ride higher on the back dimples, yes. If you're sitting down and now your pants are digging up into them, it's back dimples, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that would probably be the only true factor. It's like because you're changing the shape of your body and where your clothes might be resting. So if it causes the pants to rub up against them, that would be the problem. Generally, the losing of the weight shouldn't matter because it's just in the skin. It's not in muscle tissue, fat tissue, anything like that. It's just in that bottom layer. Skin thickness should stay.
Shouldn't change too much.
But
because they are dermals we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And like lower back dimples are generally, it's a little bit thicker tissue there. So you need to accommodate room for that. But if you've had them for a while, things shouldn't change other than the clothes.
Yura says, and I've had my nose piercing on and off for a year. What's the proper way to clean it and heal it? Because the hole closes so easily.
Keep your jewelry in. A lot of people think you need to take your jewelry all the way out to properly clean your piercing, and you really don't. Like when you're in the shower or bath, a lot of times the steam or the hot water is kind of flushing things out. Your body expels things as it needs. But all I really ever suggest is a wound wash spray. Like if you still have crusties that's still in the healing process, you spray inside and outside, let it sit on there, and you take a little paper towel and just kind of wipe things off. But don't remove your jewelry. Leave it in there. They do just fine in there. Yeah, that's what I got to say about that. Don't take your jewelry out to clean it.
And Brandon Morningstar says, damn autocorrect. I meant oule. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought maybe there was a silent P I didn't know about because I've only ever heard it said. I didn't ever seen it read.
We need to go back to the last question. Should I take jewelry out to clean? When you have stretched ears and plugs, take them out and clean them. Otherwise, they will get funky. But normal piercings where you're wearing like metal labrets and rings, things like that, you don't need to remove them.
Don't take those
out. Plugs are a lot easier to remove in and out. You're going to just upset a lip piercing or whatever ear piercing you have.
The Marine Machine wants to know, how tall are you, Scott? In the video where you got your doff pierced, you looked like a literal giant.
Yeah, because that was next to Travis.
Oh, Travis pierced your doff.
Travis, there's a video back in the day about wearing masks and piercings. And my favorite comment is, my God, how big are you, Scott? Because I'm just so much huger than Travis. I'm 6'2", about 275 pounds. So I'm a pretty big guy, but I think Travis was, I don't even know, 5.
So it was more about the contrast.
Yeah. Travis is a little skinnier. I'm a thicker guy. So, I mean, everything about us was just opposite. And I'm sure the way the cameras were didn't make me look much smaller either. So, yeah.
Fun question, Marine Machine. We appreciate that. Spenny Boy says, been following for a couple years now. First time in the live.
Welcome in. We're glad to have you here. And thanks for following us for a couple years. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Emma says things like throwing things at their job and we get hit in the face sometimes. Just one of the dangers.
Yeah, duck, dive, dip, dodge, and duck. Is that the 5 Ds
say that
of
twice?
Dodgeball, something like that? Yeah. Well, that's part of the joke.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Violette says, sadly, I had a problem with my belly. It rejected twice, so I just got a belly tat. LMAO.
Okay. The thing is if you have a piercing and it rejects all the way out and you have that, like the scar tissue from top to bottom, that tissue is not near as strong as it used to be. So if it rejected once, it's probably going to do it again and again and again. And the more you get it, you really got to change angles, go to non-scarred tissue. Yeah, it's rough when they reject. But congratulations on your tattoo.
And every other piercing that Violet had no issues at all. So
yeah. I mean, it's the shape of the belly button. Sometimes they're a little more flat. Sometimes you have a good solid ridge. We're looking for a ridge on a belly button. And sometimes piercers will just do piercings even if it's not the right anatomy for it. So yeah, it is technically an anatomy dependent piercing.
Nikolai Vinograd says, I have 2 bumps left on my high lobe from 2 unsuccessful piercings, and they don't seem to go away. Can I still get a new piercing there?
Again, I would like to ask if you've ever used any scar tissue remover, like Mederma, even vitamin E oil. If you massage them, that helps break down those bumps in that scar tissue and takes away discoloration and should bring it back to normal. Now, technically, yeah, you can get it re-pierced, but if you have that bump there, that bump will stay there and never really go away as long as you have the piercing, because you're going to have pressure put on that bump. So.
Michelle Logan wants to know if there's an incorrect manner to do a conch piercing, and please to provide your thoughts about conch piercings.
Sure. The only thing I would really say about a conch piercing is you want to go perpendicular to the tissue, which means you want to be at nice right angles. Don't go to weird angle because it creates bumps in a longer healing process. I don't like to get pierced, or I don't pierce people with rings. I only pierce them with studs. Typically, I pierce straight back like this. So if you're wearing a gem, it kind of shows everything off a little bit better. People like to wear clusters in there, but I mean, traditionally, like, you can pierce down where you wear longer poles in there. You can do the upper conch. You can do a conch to conch industrial. So I mean, anywhere in the conch can be done. I've even done triple conch piercings where one angles this, one straight in, and then one angles up. So it just really depends on what you want and what you want to wear.
Fia says, hey, Scott, I have a slightly crooked upper lobe piercing and it doesn't close up. Can I get it re-pierced in that same spot since it doesn't close up?
A lot of times if you pierce right next to it, it's going to fall into that same hole and you're going to be in the exact same situation. So sometimes if you can find maybe some slightly larger jewelry and like try to stretch it out and irritate it, that can cause your piercing to close up a little bit.
So explain what you mean there. Be more detailed about that. Okay. So you're saying if you basically annoy the piercing and make it a little sore.
Yeah. If you take a piercing out when it's not irritated, it's most likely going to be more likely to be staying open. If you take the piercing out when it's infected, I'm not saying get it infected, but if it's irritated, it was bleeding, or if it was this little tender, like, oh, it's sore, I'm taking it out for the night. Those are the piercings that close up. So if you didn't have jewelry in there a long time, you look through your earrings and find one of the thicker ones and like try to get it in there, wear it for an hour, and you're like, it's a little sore. Take it out, and then there's a good chance it could close up a lot better for you. Also, Mederma or any sort of scar tissue remover can help break down that scar tissue and allow it to close up. But yeah, if you pierce right next to it, it's probably going to fall right into that hole.
It ends up crooked like the last one. So try to get rid of the hole first using those methods, and then get the piercing.
Yes.
Excellent. Loops says, I tried stretching my ears, dead stretching, but they weren't happy. I took my jewelry out to clean them and massage them and felt a firm ball of scar tissue. Mm-hmm. I'm leaving my ears be for now with all the jewelry out. What should I do? I want to have a 10 millimeter first lobe, an 8 millimeter or around their second lobe, and a 4 or 5 millimeter third lobe. By the way, my ears, 1 to 3 lobes, are pierced with a gun many years ago. So I guess we already have the holes.
Sure. You just got to be patient. I know a lot of people freak out when like they feel hard bumps in there, but stretch your ear to the point where it's tight but doesn't hurt, and you got to leave it in there for probably 6 to 8 weeks before you go on to the next. Okay. And if you take it out to clean it, you're going to feel it. You build up a little bit more scar tissue, but if it doesn't hurt, you're not building up too much. You're going to feel it in there. And then after the 6 to 8 weeks is when all the tissue kind of relaxes and goes back to normal, and it's ready to go up to the next size. And I bet if you feel it then, it won't be as hard. So it is normal when you stretch your tissue out for it to be kind of a little tougher around that area. Again, just patience, put one size in there, wait the right amount of time, and a nice gradual stretch is the key.
That's what it sounds like. Because if your ears weren't happy, you probably went a little faster than your ears were happy with.
Exactly. It shouldn't hurt. Just barely a little tight where it's like it's almost, you can't really turn it. That's okay. But if it's like, I almost got it, like you overdid it.
Because I think people think it's an endurance thing. It's about how tough are you, smash it in, but it's really not.
We don't care how tough you are because it shouldn't hurt in the first place.
Interesting.
Right. It's like only tough people go get their haircut because it could really, and it shouldn't hurt. If your haircut really hurts, you're probably doing something wrong.
You need a new barber. Yeah. I like the whole metaphor. That's good. If your haircut hurts, you need a new barber.
Yeah. I have all these barbers all mad at me, like, what? I can't be that rough with the haircuts anymore.
Exactly. I've had some rough barbers. Iris says, one of my ear piercings came out this morning, and I saw that there was a lot of crusties on it. I thought I was cleaning it well, but apparently not. Any tips for getting that hard to see or hard to reach crusties off the ear piercings? I think a lot of people probably have don't really understand how much the crusties can build up.
They really can. Just because if you have a cluster or a larger gem, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And the thing is once it builds up over time, it's tougher to get those crusties out because there's layers and layers and layers. If it's just one thin layer, it just a lot of times it just wipes right off. Now, soaking your ears in some warm water for a good 10 minutes like that. And then if you take a paper towel, roll it to the tightest points you can get it. It's almost like turns it into a stick, but it still has enough of the padding on there to kind of protect it. And you can get in there and sometimes wipe it out. So wipe it out. And if you need to, soak your ears for another 5-10 minutes and then stay on top of it. So it's not as much work to remove.
Right.
Hiccups.
So
There they are. I get them.
Yeah, it happens every time. So so even if it's like a flat disc, you're saying to take that thing and like slide under it and kind of get anything that's.
It should just go. And if you're hurting yourself, soak it longer.
Okay.
It's.
What about after like a hot shower? Is that another good time to do it?
Great time. Yeah. So absolutely, it's just that steam, the hot water, the soaking softens them up. You know how it is. Like if you had a scab on your arm and you take a long bath or a long shower and it kind of gets gooey.
Yeah, it almost
That's
disappears.
what we're trying to do. But that scab already is like super thick. We're not trying to get our crusties that thick. It should have been like day one and just wipe it off.
Just wipe that little bit away.
Wipe it off. That's the goal.
Will Jones says, is it common to enjoy the stretching process that actually having stretched lobes? I had my stretch finished in about 3 weeks before I retired it, and now I'm planning to take out more recent piercings.
Yeah, I mean, it's really rewarding when you're doing a piercing or a stretching. Stretching is like a self thing. Like every month and a half, 2 months, it's like getting a new piercing because you're getting a new piece of jewelry. You're looking in the mirror and you're seeing progress. Imagine if you could work out and every month and a half you looked in the mirror and went, whoa, way bigger. Whoa, way bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, and that's what it is. So it's like you're getting that gratification every month and a half to 2 months when you stretch. So, and new jewelry, it's like new clothes, new fanciness, and it's awesome. So yeah, it's kind of sad when you like my tattoo sleeves, like the sleeves I have here. It's like it was exciting to be done, but at the same time, it's like, oh, they're done.
Right, no more space.
Yeah,
no more new creativity there.
So, but I got other spots I can still tattoo. But I think that's what it is. So I agree with you. It is fun to stretch. There's a lot of people who are afraid of it because they overdo it and rip and tear their ears, and it's a painful process. But if it never hurts and it's only rewarding, how can you not love it?
Right.
Yeah.
Just patience.
Yeah.
Patience is how you get that reward. Brandon Morningstar said, in a previous live, someone asked a question about bottom angel fangs.
Mm-hmm.
Wants to know, can we officially dub these demon fangs? It's actually more attractive. We came up with like ogre fangs. Is that what we were going to call them? And that
ogre bites or ogre
bites. Yeah.
Ogre bites. I think that's what we were talking about.
So
we should name them ogre bites.
Angel fangs.
I mean, it's still
demon fangs.
Their demon fangs are pretty
not bad.
cool. Yeah,
Good,
absolutely.
It's a good name, Brandon.
Yeah.
I like that.
There's a couple things we're tossing around. Maybe we'll officially brand it that one of these days here.
Exactly.
We'll have to have a vote.
The awkward anthropoid says, hey, friends, I'm trying to size up my nostrils from a 4 to a 2, and I'm having issues finding a 3 taper or any type of ways to size up. Do you have any advice? So how can we get between that 2 and the 4 if we don't have any?
You need in-between sizes. All I know of is Gorilla Glass would make a 3-gauge plug. And when I had my nostrils stretched, which it's really painful. For those of you who don't know, like that's one of the few ones you put it in there and like, man, this is going to be sore for a while again. But anyways, I had a friend that worked at a machine shop and maybe 3 to 4 sizes between each stretch. And I still did it once every like 4 months or something like that, maybe 6 months. It's like, it takes a long time for things to loosen up. And even those mini stretches was quite a bit. So patience. I mean, it's so hard to do. 3-gauge tapers. I don't know anyone who makes a 3-gauge taper. I mean, maybe sometimes when you look on Amazon, people make their own things and you might be able to find something there. Sometimes people mislabel things like, oh, there's a 4-gauge and it's really a 3-gauge, but you just kind of got to get lucky that way. I don't know.
Is this something where the tape method could help or not really on a nostril?
You can. It's really hard because the cartilage is so tight that it bunches up. So you'd have to use Teflon tape, and it's kind of tough to do, but that might be a method. Good call on that one. Yeah.
All right. So yeah,
good luck to you.
That's a tough one. Awkward. It's tough. Annalise Grace says, hey guys, I'm always happy to be here for Alive. My question today, is it possible for an ear's shape to not allow space for any forward helix? I feel like mine is so thin and small.
Absolutely. And that is something that people don't realize a lot, is that the forward helix is an anatomy dependent piercing. Like when we're looking at this ear here, it looks like there's good anatomy here, but it's actually pretty flat right to there. So we would be going through a curvy area. Generally, when we're doing this piercing, we want to have something like this where there's actually a fold of skin here, where when you put the jewelry in, you don't even see the backing. So if you can totally see the backing, it doesn't look right unless you wear a ring, which back in the 90s, that was real popular to get forward helixes with a ring. Okay. So, but yeah, you're not alone. It does happen. Some people don't have the right anatomy for forward helixes. Some people can only get one. Some people get two. I've seen people get four before. Everyone's ear shape is different.
Sevda says, hey, you two, hope you're doing well as always. Heart.
Pretty darn good myself. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Glad you're here.
Really glad to see you.
Yeah.
Lydia M, just curious, is there any body mods that make you cringe when you look at them, Scott? Or are you an oak?
No, body cringe.
You know what I mean? Like there's like some of that stuff you see on BME.
I know exactly what you're talking about, like the Alien Project guy where he removes his nose.
Black Alien Project.
The things that make me cringe are things that are extremely dangerous and risky. Like the people who want the collarbone piercings where they're putting curved barbells under the collarbone, hoping not to puncture a lung. It's like that stuff is just like, what are you doing? But as far as like mods where people have horns, implants, huge stretch things, removal of things, it doesn't necessarily make me cringe. I guess I've seen a lot of it in person. It's just when people are being reckless and dangerous is when I get cringy.
Okay.
And dirty.
So unsafe. So like butt piercings, you're probably against.
Yeah. Not a fan of like
rectal. Like some people actually will
actually do it
actual area, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cringy. But
I won't do it, but I won't be like,
you're not freaked out by it necessarily. Yeah. All right. So hopefully that's a good answer for you there, Lydia.
Good question. Yeah, I know there's a lot of things that get real extreme and people freak out about, but I've been in this industry just shy of 30 years at this point. So I've seen most all of it.
Right. It's hard to keep getting shocked.
Yeah.
Kayla says, hey guys, I was wondering if more of your story times are coming soon. Actually, yeah, we were talking about incorporating more of those and actually doing them maybe more in a short format.
Yeah. I think I've gotten a little better at storytelling and talking in front of the camera. So when we did a lot of those were the very beginning days of the
channel, right? Some of our first videos when we were figuring this out.
Absolutely. So yeah, we definitely have some more of those coming because I do have stories.
All right.
Cool.
Agelos Marcus says, hey, I've had my industrial for 3 months. Should I change the bar to 2 separate pieces in order to speed up the healing process, or is that going to migrate and cause problems?
It's going to migrate. You are absolutely right. You can take the chance if you want. If they're pierced properly, it should be close to the same healing time either way, because some helixes still take up to a year to heal, even if it's not industrial. If they're 2 different angles, you're not going to heal it up either way. Then I would say just do what you want to do with the piercing. But yeah, if you put them in, eventually they will start changing. And when you put the industrial bar in, you're going to get bumps and it's going to go right back to the irritation.
Right. So yeah, like you were saying earlier, if the bar doesn't sit straight and the tissue's contorted, if you take it out and make it 2 piercings, it'll heal, but you're never going to be able to put that bar back in because it's contorted again.
Exactly. But if your piercing has huge bumps on there and you're having nothing but problems, and you put the bars in and they immediately go like this, I'm like, well, that's your problem, is they didn't pierce you properly.
Right.
So,
and in that case, maybe enjoy it as 2 piercings.
Now, how long? You said 2 months, 3 months?
3 months.
You're so early in the healing process. No, it's still too early to even think about that. And if you're having problems, go talk to your piercer and see what's going on.
But mostly just 3 months still being sore, pretty normal.
There's no way you could be healed and feeling comfortable at 3 months for.
So leave the single bar in and just ride it out.
Absolutely.
Ghost Fields wants to know, are you still planning on getting a Manus? Yeah,
I really am. It's just, I work so much and I just haven't had time. And when I do it, we're going to definitely record it because that would be a fun one to show you guys. Like me.
Absolutely. I think that'd be a lot of fun to record the actual piercing.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Jen Lou says, my Helix was pierced with a gun at the mall more than a year ago. The right side is fine, but the left hurts when I actually wear jewelry in it. I know it's not the jewelry. Do you think I could just heal it and get it re-pierced?
Why do you know it's not the jewelry? If it's the jewelry they pierced you with, I mean, that could be the source of the problem. Butterfly backs are terribly uncomfortable. A lot of those piercing guns misfire. They kind of rip and tear their way through the cartilage. It doesn't make a nice, clean incision.
And even if you've got good jewelry in there, it could have a scratch or a manufacturing defect.
Exactly. Could be slightly too long, slightly too short. Could be. There's a lot of factors. So I don't know.
So it could be your jewelry, even though you think it's not. And to answer your question directly, we could just take the jewelry out, massage it, let it heal up, and pierce it again in the future.
Absolutely. Well, the other thing too is, do you sleep on that side? Maybe that's why it's sore and not the other one. You know?
Oh yeah, which side do you sleep on, Jen? It could be you're going to figure out that that's the sore side.
But yeah, you could take it out and get it re-pierced if you wanted to.
Nikolai Vinograd says, boy, oh boy, do I have a third question for you.
All right, bring it on.
My nostril piercings were done with 16 gauge studs, but I introduced much thinner 20 gauge studs too early.
Yep.
Now I can't put the bigger ones back in. Is this reversible?
Absolutely. Going from a 20 to a 16 is too much of a jump. You need to go to the 20 to the 18. That will be a more reasonable jump, and your nostrils will be tender for maybe a week or so, and it should be back to normal fairly quick. I would give it another good 6 to 8 weeks. So you want to wear that a good 2 months or so, and then you might be able to go back up to that 16. A lot of times they go back up to that size a little bit easier, but from an 18 to a 16, sometimes it could be 4 or 5 months. But yeah, it is reversible. I mean, because my nostrils were originally pierced 1 at an 8, 1 at a 6, and I got them all the way up to a 7/16, which is about a size larger than a 00. So yeah, you could totally stretch and totally reverse it.
Emma Bond wants to know, how long does it take the bridge of your nose to heal when you get a bridge piercing?
Again, it varies from person to person. The anatomy, sometimes I have to pierce a lot of tissue because people have a wider bridge. Sometimes it's really, really thin. So kind of depends on how much tissue's there, if you're wearing glasses, and how much movement there is. But generally, these are pretty healed up in 4 to 6 months. It seems more healed up in like the 2 to 3 months, but you get crusties, a little bit of irritation, swelling goes back and forth for a while. So I generally tell people expect about 6 months.
Apple Pie says, hi, I've had my snake bites for more than a year, but now they just won't heal. What should I do?
Check out your jewelry. Were they healed before and they recently just got irritated? Did you change your jewelry to something too small or too big? Did you change to rings instead of studs? It's got to be in the jewelry. Got to be in the jewelry. And if it's not healing, maybe make sure it's the right type of metal, or change to titanium or niobium to make sure there's not a metal allergy. Yeah.
All right. So today we have to call it slightly early because important things call to us, unfortunately. Yep. So we are going to answer a few more questions and then get out of here. We love that you all came, and we wish we could answer every single question. I'm sorry to anyone who we didn't get to this time. But like Scott said, next 2 weeks from now on our next live stream, we're going to do a full 2 hours. I think we might get closer to being able to handle all the questions.
Yeah, that might be kind of awesome. Really awesome.
Sarah Lancaster says, hi, Scott. Great to catch you live. My double tragus is taking a while to heal. It's been 3 months. Should I be worried? Hugs from France.
Hugs back from Las Vegas. And no, don't be worried yet. If you got them both done in the same sitting, it's a little bit more trauma, a little bit longer healing process. Cartilage piercings like that, generally 4 to 6 months to heal up, sometimes even longer. So if you got a double and it's only 3 months, it's going to be tender. It's going to be swollen. Hopefully you're not wearing earplugs or earphones or anything that goes in your ear like that. And just keep cleaning with this wound wash and you should be fine.
Savannah has an excellent question because there are so many like weird little like myths about piercings that float around.
Good. Yes.
Is it true that cartilage piercings never fully heal? Because Savannah has heard people say that they're just always going to be a little bit tender. They're just never going to actually heal all the way.
Not true at all. I mean, I have a 0 gauge up here and there's 0 pain. I can sleep on these.
No soreness at all.
My traguses have been pierced since 1993. No issues. My doff piercings, I forget they're there. I just have to straighten them out once in a while and make sure that the gem's facing forward. I mean, so yeah, they totally can heal. I'm walking proof of that. Sometimes it just take a while and people get impatient and take them out. Sometimes people are wearing those butterfly backs where it stabs the back of their head all the time. And yeah, that's just going to suck forever if there's something stabbing you. So if you're wearing the right jewelry, it makes a big difference.
Awesome. And for our last question today, we are going to go with Che. Hey guys, do you have any advice for someone who's considering a conch punch? What do we mean by a punch and why is it different than a piercing?
Okay, so piercing needles are basically, they come to a point and it makes a crescent incision, kind of like the shape of the moon, and displaces and pushes the rest of the tissue down. That's why when you put jewelry in there, they typically don't bleed. So this is not removing any tissue. A conch punch, or I should say a biopsy punch or a dermal punch, is basically like a razor blade in a perfect shape like a circle. And then basically you put like a cork or something behind it and you cut and remove the tissue out.
Like a cookie cutter.
Like a cookie cutter, exactly. So this is a lot more intense. A lot of times these are illegal and they're done under the table. But it's going to be a loud crunch. You're going to bleed quite a bit more. You got to map it out, make sure there's no veins in there, anything you really need to be worried about. I mean, when I had my biopsy punch done way back in the day, mine was a trip to the hospital. So you should watch that story time because it bled so much. Yeah. So that would kind of be the factor. Generally, most body piercers don't do these. You're going to find body modification artists who are the ones going to be doing most of the punches that way. Was there anything?
That's basically just general advice, or if someone's considering it. Yeah. Also, the permanence of it is a thing.
It's mostly permanent, correct. My conches were pierced at a 4-gauge stretch to a 2, and you can almost kind of tell. I do.
Yeah,
have
you can
holes,
see the light through it.
Yeah. So they shrunk up quite a bit, but they didn't close. Now my flat up top here. Granted, I just took the jewelry out, but it's a perfect circle. You can see with the white behind there. It doesn't look like a natural piercing, and that really won't close up that much. So
and because that's an example of one that was punched out.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And it is interestingly like cookie cutter perfect, the way that sits in there.
It really is
kind of cool.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. I hope you like our new set. We're going to add a lot more decorations. We always have more videos coming out. So make sure you're subscribed, hit that like button. And of course, keep putting holes in your body. We'll see you on the next video.